Perfect. Oh, bingo, right on.
Yeah,
Good job.
we're rolling now. Figured it out. Well, I just want to say, thank you for sharing. I know towards the end it got pretty emotional. Kat, like for me being your teammate, I'd never heard that story. So, thank you for sharing. Thank you for being comfortable sharing that.
Yeah.
Thanks again. So we're gonna move on. So I am going to ask you to describe each turning point one at a time. Let's go to this first turning point that we labeled. What did we label?
3 on 3.
3 on 3? I'm going to ask you several questions.
Okay.
Which is only 5. So we're going to go in order with the 3v3 and then I'm going to ask you that question. Alright. So, with the 3v3, what was happening at the time of this turning point? So, what was happening?
I mean, during the tournament, during the...
Anything that you think is significant. So I feel like these questions you have already answered.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, because it was so elongated, but I just want to get this just so I don't miss anything.
Okay. So what was happening? It was a tournament for 3 on 3 soccer.
Okay.
Four players per team, 3 playing at any one time.
What sport was it?
Soccer.
Soccer. All right. Number 2. Why did you feel closer or more distant at this time? So these questions, either one of you can answer.
Mm-hmm.
Because you guys are both related in that experience.
I think felt closer because that was kind of the first point my dad understood that the whole relying on other people thing just wasn't going to work out for me. Like, being frustrated in terms of like, it's still a tie, we're not doing anything, this isn't working. He just understood, I think, we got to try something else or figure something else out.
Gotcha. What was said or done at this time?
Between us, it all finished well. So it was just congratulations, basically. I was more worried about what happens to the one person out of the 8 kids that were playing on the 3 on 3. What happens when one of them misses and costs their team the tournament? And so we avoided that. And so in my mind, everything turned out really positive on that day.
Yeah.
So that leads to my question number 4. Did you guys have positive feelings and emotions?
It was a very positive, moment in our relationship because I felt that we avoided a potential moment where it would have been really bad for somebody.
What else would you like to say about this time in your relationship?
I don't know if there's anything really worth.
She was a young little piece of clay that we're still molding. So, just a step in that journey.
Yeah.
Alright, let's move on to Kat. And keep in mind you guys can answer these questions. We're going to ask the same 5 questions 5 more times.
Okay.
So the next topic was when you were age, what do I have here? 13 to 14 Western zones, I called it.
Yeah.
So what was happening at that time, this turning point?
So I had difficulty breathing right before my race. And is that all that you need?
And then Dad did not support you or trust you?
Yeah, Dad questioning my reasoning for why.
Why did you feel closer, more distant? So I assume distant.
Yeah, I felt more distant just because I felt more misunderstood. and I felt like that connection wasn't as clear as I thought it was maybe.
Mm.
Yeah, as far as communications, I didn't get communicated to, but that was, I just assumed she was nervous,
Mm.
and I don't want to say hyperventilating, but you know, freaking out was a term I used back then. And I thought that was just the end of it. So, why that happened like it did, I don't know, but it did. So that's a communications or lack of communications, I guess. From me understanding it or from her letting me know, we didn't line up at that moment as far as communicating.
Great. So, number 3, what was said? What was like a catchphrase that was said? Was it
I think,
stop freaking out?
Yeah, I think it was
With
more.
that?
It was like, I think you're freaking out right now. Try and relax, or something like that. Something along the lines of that.
Where she was probably feeling, I can't breathe. What do you mean relax?
Yeah.
And so that was that lack of communication.
Yeah.
But she's still breathing.
I'm still alive.
So, what kind of feelings or emotions did you feel at this time?
Probably just disconnected and like invalid almost, just not having that sense of trust, kind of, or like feeling valid in my feelings.
Okay. Is there anything else you want to say about it?
Not really.
Okay. All right. So moving on. The second turning point you mentioned was the haircut at age 9.
Yeah.
The percentage was 30%. So I'm going to ask you these questions again. What was happening at this time, and what was the turning point?
What was happening is, you know, they meaning her sister, and my wife, wanted to get haircuts for the girls, and I was opposed to it. But the communications was asking for permission, not getting it, and then still going ahead and do it. So where we disconnected on communications is beyond me, but we did.
Mm.
So I guess it wasn't a communications thing, it was a respect of what I wanted and what they wanted.
So why?
So it wasn't a mutual decision, let's go get a haircut. It
Yeah.
was me saying no, they saying we want it, and then off they went and got it. So the question is, why did you even ask me if you're going to do it without?
So is that why you felt distant?
Yeah,
Because you weren't asked?
that's why I felt like, you know, obviously the communication wasn't good at that point either.
Just
Because of
excluded
that,
probably too.
Mm. So do you remember what was said, or did you just not
Well,
talk to
nothing,
them?
yeah, I didn't speak to them for 3 days. And that was my form of communication / punishment / whatever you want to. That was me communicating by not communicating how disappointed I was.
So
That's a form of communications too.
yeah,
You're communicating your displeasure by not communicating. If that makes sense. I'm
Yeah.
sure it does in some crazy way.
And a feeling of emotion that you experienced?
I felt hurt. I don't want to say betrayed because that's not a fair term, but you know, I was just hurt that they went against my wishes.
Gotcha. Anything else you guys want to say about this?
I don't remember that
I
one
don't
that
remember
well.
anything, yeah.
So I just remember having short hair and I was like, thank God. No more tangles.
All right, so next turning point, Kat. This was the phone call with
Yeah.
Michigan. You were age 18, and this was a 95 to 100%.
Yeah.
What was happening at this time?
So I was preparing to have a big recruiting phone call conversation with the head coach of Michigan to decide the scholarship amount I'd be getting before
Committing or not
committing or
committing,
decommitting to the school.
Great. Why did you feel closer at this time with your father?
I felt supported and I felt prepared, and it was by his actions in doing so that made me feel that way. Just making sure that I was prepped and knew what to say.
Good. Could you think of what was said, like, before that phone call? Like, what did he say specifically?
Just be honest with them. Like, it goes back to that whole concept that I learned when I was young. But just said, be honest with them. Tell them, what you think you're worth and why, and keep it real. Just have a conversation, kind of.
And could you describe an emotion or feeling you had?
I hate to use the word supported again, but I probably, just supported and
Maybe confident.
yeah, confident.
Confident that your dad was in your corner.
Yeah, just like it felt, confident and almost like partly invincible. Like, even if this goes wrong, it's gonna be okay. I'll figure out something else.
Gotcha. Anything you guys want to say about that to add?
Yeah, well, we all supported her and tried to guide her the best we knew how. I was all about going to the best school that you can go to, and she was looking more of satisfying all needs. And in the end, she was right. The school that she chose was never even on my radar. I was, not for that school. I was looking for the highest ranked school educationally that she can get to with her swimming. Because it wasn't about the swimming, it was about the education. In the end, she picked a mixture of both. And her choice was the right choice and not our hope for her. So I guess that, in the communications, we try to help communicate to her, me and my wife, what we thought was best for her. But in the end, she made the decision all by herself, and it was the right one, going back and looking at it now. So.
Yeah. Good. Isn't that so good to hear?
Yeah. It is.
Yeah. All right. Turning point to the father. The topic was London Olympics. Age was 19. Kat was 19. And the percentage you gave was 5%.
Yeah, that communication, as far as the communications go, and I assume this is asking where your communication level was?
Kind of. Our relationship
Or was it
level.
asking relationship? My relationship level was at 100%, but my level to communicate with her was at 5%. So I couldn't communicate to her or be there for her because of physical barriers of communication. So there was no way to talk to her. She was talking, if I remember, on her coach's cell phone, which only had, X amount of data or time on it, so I couldn't talk to her for more than a minute. And how do you console somebody for not reaching a goal that they were basically trying to achieve for 12 years, working day and night for? And she was devastated, and at the same time, you couldn't be there for her. You couldn't communicate anything other than saying, it'll be better and we'll talk, somewhere down the road. But she was really devastated by that, and there was nobody there that could communicate to her how we felt.
So you felt distant?
Yeah, I felt that we let her down, me and my wife. We weren't there for her when she needed it.
During that phone call, what was said?
What was said? She was devastated. She, if I remember right, said that it hurt physically.
What did you say? Because I know you had a short amount of time.
We were saying, honey, it'll be okay. We love you. And we'll figure out a way down the road.
Yeah.
And that's about as far as you can get in the conversation because of the time limits. I remember hanging up the phone and I just felt like I totally let my daughter down. Both me and my wife. So that was one of the low points of my life. As far as my daughter goes, my parenting life, that not being there for her. And I swore we would never do that again, and I don't think we ever did.
Always there.
Yeah. So what's like a feeling or emotion that you can kind of pinpoint with
that event? She was devastated, and we were disappointed in our parenting.
Not disappointed in her, just disappointed in the fact that you couldn't be there.
Yeah,
right.
We were devastated. She was devastated, but we were also, as parents, devastated that we didn't plan for that.
Yeah.
And from then on out, I always made sure that that wasn't gonna happen, the hurt part.
Yeah. Kat, is there anything else you want to add to that?
Maybe just I never once felt disappointed in them, or I don't know, it just never came across like I was maybe so caught up in feeling, like you said, devastated and just, bummed about the whole situation, about me not making it. But I never once felt like, oh, you and Mom, like I wish they were here. This would be
Different. Yeah,
so different. It was never like, yeah, they really failed me. They weren't there. It was always just trying to cope and swallow the whole downfall of just coming short, and it never came down to questioning their like support or love. It was just a thing, a personal thing I had to get through.
Yeah.
So.
Gotcha. So we're gonna end with you. The last turning point that you mentioned was retiring from swimming.
Mm-hmm.
You were 24, 25 years of age, and you rated this as 100%.
Yeah.
So what was happening at this time? I guess when you retired, what did your dad do? Because you mentioned he gave you space, but what was happening?
Yeah, so it was my last competition, and I just remember it was a really weird feeling. It's something that's really hard to explain as a former athlete, but just that feeling knowing this is your last race when you're behind the blocks, just this feeling over, like it just encompasses you and nothing else was like happening. I just remember standing back behind the blocks and looking up at the stands and just like seeing my parents super excited, like waving, all smiling. And I just like, it had all come together, all like of those events have come together in those pieces. And I just knew this was my way to leave the sport, and like that's how it needs to happen. So I guess the one memory, like specific event to tie it to, was looking up at the stands and just seeing my parents right like before my last event.
So that's how you felt closer, knowing that they were there.
Yeah, and just seeing them so happy, like no matter how I was about to swim was completely irrelevant. Just seeing them like there and happy to be there was cool. It made me just kind of like let the whole athletic part of why I was there just like fade out, and like it was a good note to leave on.
It's good to hear. Was there anything said or done at this time?
I think not said vocally, but like I said, expressed through the like smiling and the waving and just being super excited. That like silent interaction that was distant still made me feel so close. Like, they're up there, they were ready for the next phase, whatever it was about to be, kind of. And I could tell they kind of knew too. Like it was a really weird unsaid thing, but just like looking up at them, they knew I was ready to be done. I knew, like it was just like a silent way of being like, enjoy this last minute, because from here on out.
Yeah, me and my wife talked about one more race, and in the end it wasn't about the one more race. My wife wanted a little bit more, and I remember having a conversation with my wife. My initial reaction was, yeah, let's try one more event, one big. And then in the end, it wasn't about that race. We thought, I thought about it, and I think to this day my wife wanted her to do one more big meet, but I was like, why? What's the point of it? The journey is done, it's complete, and now's the time to end it, and that's the way it finished for her. And so it's like the completion of that whole phase of your life on a successful note, because you ended on your terms, number one. And number two, it's that part of the journey is over, and it was time for the new page to be flipped. And I've seen too many swimmers that keep swimming.
Just don't know how to let go. And that's like when that space came in, was he knew like it was my own terms, and instead of like fighting back, like, oh, you should do that one more event or that one more meet, he just knew, like, the decision had been made on her point, like, let her decide and go along with it.
Yeah, I played sports, and I know when the time comes for you to quit or move on. I shouldn't say quit. My wife keeps saying quit, and I kind of adopted that terminology. She didn't quit her sport, she finished.
Yeah, you finished.
She
tired.
finished, yeah.
Is there any emotion that you can pinpoint, Kat, to describe that?
Yeah, I would just say maybe like felt very loved, and accepted. Like, you know, this was a choice I came to terms with, and like they just knew that was it. Yeah.
Gotcha. Oh, did you want to add?
Yeah, on a final note about this whole communication thing. Wherever we've gone on this line, this imaginary positive negative line, our relationship has been at the 100% level with spike marks down and a little bit of up spikes. But, you know, we've been at a 90% level for her whole life.
Yeah.
And if I've gone down to 3% or 5%, whatever I said,
It was a
that
quick.
was just a boom, boom, and back up to 95%.
Mm-hmm.
We've always rebounded and never had issues with that. So, you know,
Good
communicate.
relationship. Yeah.